Welcome to Carver Conversations. I'm your host, Tiff Marchand, and this is a Sabertooth podcast. Today on the show, we have Anne of all trades. Anne is an amazing person. She does a lot of different things, obviously, and she was such an amazing guest to have on the show. I seriously think I've got some business coaching in there, and I think you will really appreciate it. And we talk on a broad amount of topics that were just really exciting. So I can't wait to show you that. But before you move on, make sure you head on over to sabertooth.com and sign up for the newsletter, because once a month they send out a coupon that gives you 25% off your entire order, and you'll have 24 hours to use it. So you want to make sure that you're signed up for that and that you don't miss out. And if you're looking to buy something today and you want to save a little bit of money, there is 10% off with our show code. It's all in caps, EM2CO. All right, on with the show. Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be great. We finally get a chance to get to know one another after all these mini moons.
Where
do
are we
we want
right
to
now?
use our hour for? I'm in my office / barn / whatever it / recording studio / whatever it needs to be.
Recording
it's
room.
actually, yes, it's next to, well, I mean, literally it's just a drywall wall between my animals and I.
That's nice. I hide in my basement. So this is my basement. And then like my kids' room's like directly above me. But thankfully I haven't been a problem for him yet. I haven't got any complaints served. So we're doing good.
I mean, that's like the tidiest basement ever, by the way. I am really enjoying your epoxy cart, your laser.
Oh, I haven't even used it yet, but yes, it's ready. Yeah.
Oh,
I just remodeled it because I just went full time, and I said, like, before I go full time, one of my big goals is I actually need a recordable space, like somewhere that doesn't look like I'm in a dungeon. And I took 3 days off of work and I just flipped the whole thing as fast as I could, because I'm like, it just needs to look good.
Well, so good on you for doing that, because that's actually what I recommend pretty much every creative person does at one point or another, is just take time off of work, make that space livable in whatever format that looks like to you, so that you have one space that's your own. Because otherwise, I mean, creative people tend to be also pretty messy people.
Oh, yes.
And if you're not careful, that'll just take over your whole life. And then it's actually really, really difficult to be productively creative in a messy space. So funnily enough, I actually just did that in this space. Although it probably doesn't look like it to you, it is. I completely flipped this space around, took 3 days off of work last month and did this exact same thing.
Yeah.
And now coming in here is now like, instead of,
no, you look like you did some stuff there. You have some nice designated spaces for things from what I'm seeing. You made little workstations for yourself. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, the biggest thing was I needed to add a couch, because funnily enough, just my most creativeness happens, thinking wise, when I'm in a comfortable position. And I was actually having like an issue, coming up with copy. Like I do a lot of marketing stuff. So coming up with marketing copy and things, sitting in this very hard chair that also helps me to sit up straight and to be productive and those kinds of things. But when I needed creative space, I was actually going other places to find it, but then other places involve other distractions. So I was having a harder and harder time.
Like your living room in front of the TV or something where you shouldn't be.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so I was like, well, I have to figure out a way to put a couch in here. And the first couch that I found, that I needed it to be leather, but I also don't have a ton of money right now, so I didn't want to spend a ton of money. But so I found this leather couch that wouldn't get gross, because I'm always, farmy. And I found it on Facebook Marketplace, and I was like, okay, well, this is much bigger than what I probably need, but here we go.
But yeah, no, yep. I get the struggle of not trying to spend too much money and trying to. I actually just watched like your YouTube video. I didn't get all the way through it, but the one that you just released, and I was laughing. I was like, thank you, Anne, for giving me this service of just like being able to catch up on your life all at once. Like, this is great. But I loved it.
This is the addition of Adam. He's much better at helping give the whole picture of things, whereas I am like, this week I'm going to put a train horn on my golf cart, and this week I'm going to build a traditional Windsor chair, and this week I'm going to shear some alpacas. because that's the way that my brain works, but his brain is much more logical, mercifully. And so he's bringing some order to the chaos.
That's wicked smart. No, I'm just like you with that. Yeah. It's like I'm project based, and it should be the overall story of what I'm doing. It shouldn't just be like this, did it to this, to this,
So tell me about like, what's the biggest thing on the horizon for you right now? What do you like? I mean, you just quit your job to do this full time. What does that look like all of a sudden?
This is like a whole new career that I built for myself. So I'm running social media for Workbench Con and for Sabertooth Power Carving. So those 2 gigs are the ones that got me to release from the day job. But I'm also launching a whole new product based on top of what I already do, because, I like to add things to my plate. I have a business called Navigating Life Charts that I'm starting, which both my kids have autism. So I'm trying to build tools to help parents, take care of that, schedule out their life, help with transitions, but take it to the next level with making it actually attractive and things that you want to have on your wall and things that are going to grow with your kid, because what's available now is just plastic. It's just ugly, brightly colored plastic with these illustrations that are just so cheesy and so horrible. And I had to live through it. So I was I'm like, I have to do that, but I'm not going to give up making horror themed art and pop culture art.
Why would you?
I can't release that. So that's why I got the laser though. So that way I can have a product line that's going while I follow my passion of creating. And then with Sabertooth, I'm doing this podcast there. I'm going to New York to do some live carving next month. Like, it's giving me these amazing opportunities. Workbench Con, I'm helping plan Workbench Con, and I'm doing the social media. So I get to learn so much insider stuff. I get to talk to people like you, like all this cool stuff. And it's like, just like, I built myself a perfect little gig for myself. It's overwhelming, like, because there's so much going on. And, you know, it's just awesome though. I'm so glad I did it. And you have to have the balls to do it and the right plan. Like, I waited 6 years before I did it. Like, I knew where I wanted to go, but it took 6 years to get there. Like, I'm definitely a planner.
Good for you. Actually, I could learn a little bit about planning from you, most likely, because I did it at first. Like when I think I was like maybe 3 years, but I think it was 2 or 3 years in, I decided to quit my job and build furniture for clients. And I failed miserably for about 1,000 different reasons that I think a lot of people that start a passion-based business end up, realizing, oh man, I don't have any time for the passion anymore. And now I've turned the thing that I love into an anchor. And then, so I was like, oh, well, but having tried and failed many things prior, I was like, oh, that didn't work. Great. Recoup, get a job. I worked another whole different career after that. And then I was like, okay, well, now it's time to try again. And that time I did it right, but it took me 3 years to plan it and to execute it in a way that actually stuck the second time around. And funnily enough, I don't even build furniture anymore. I mean, some
for yourself. Yeah. No, I get it. But you again, you had that courage to fail, which is really cool though, to just like jump in it and do it. Like, that's a whole nother thing. I think if I didn't have kids or a husband, maybe I would have been more adventurous, but I had a house already too, though. Like, I bought my house before I met my husband. So I already had like that anchor, like, you can't quit your job because you're going to lose your house feeling, so I waited till I was 40, but I did it.
Well, good on you. And I wish you the absolute best of luck. But seriously, I mean, you did do everything right. I mean, you've got,
Thanks.
I mean, I just told you about a failure of a business thing, but I do a lot of business coaching and things for people now who are trying to figure out ways that they can kind of compartmentalize. And one of the biggest things that I say to everyone is, don't just have one thing, because if you do, you're really going to be sad down the line, because something's gonna stop working sometime, and you have to have enough things in place that you've got that you've got something to fall back on. Tell me more about these charts. This is actually something that I'm very, very interested in.
So I don't know if you have anybody in your life that has autism, but okay, so they're very regimented. They love a good schedule, right? And you're trying to teach them to use their vocals, because a lot of kids are nonverbal too for quite a long time. One of my kids didn't talk until he was 4.5. So we had a lot of So I'm trying to build different tools to accommodate that as well. So I'm going to have different levels. They're all going to be customizable and they're going to be a lot of fun. And what they're going to do is just build out each kid's day and have different categories. And they're going to take the characters, in the morning, build their schedules. And then as their day goes, they're just going to move them over. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just trying to make it nicer and better and more aesthetic. Yeah. Yep.
That's amazing.
But yeah, it's a nice passion project.
And it's so important to have those that look nice too. Like what you said. I mean, I have my own version of that actually over there. But when I need to make it look nicer in here, I turn it around and there's something nice on the other side of it. Or smart. When I just need to not have it like in my face and like attacking me. But yeah, that's so cool. And I love that. Is it like is it to set proper expectations so that there's no surprises? Is that the deal?
Ease the kid. It's like a transition thing, because one of the biggest things is they have a hard time stopping one activity and going on to the next activity. So usually there's a meltdown. So it's basically, how can we avoid a meltdown today? So if they know exactly what their day is going to be like, there's no surprises. And like the whole thing of just like picking up the icon and moving it to the side is just like, that's the transition. Now the kids adjusted. Okay. They're ready to go to the next activity, because we didn't leave our house until our kids were like 3, because whenever we went somewhere, okay, let's go. Let's just go. Cause like there'd be a meltdown, So I understand the life, so I'm like, just want to help people. And my big thing is I like to make things pretty. And I did not like having that red vinyl chart on my wall.
Heard. So, that's so awesome.
Thanks.
Well, do you have an established customer base, or is this like a genuinely new product?
This is brand new. I'm actually in the testing phase. So the laser is brand new to me. I have never used one before. So I've been actually sitting with a few makers and getting coaching on how to use it. Probably use my CNC to carve the bases so that way they can have like lightning bolts and skulls, things kids might actually want to have on their wall. And then some nice plain ones that are kind of elegant for the older kids, because some kids don't grow out of things and they might need it for life. And could you imagine being 22 and you have a picture of a library that has like little kids dancing in front of a library or something? Like, how embarrassing. So all of the characters I have, just kind of like stick figures, very generic.
Nice.
Yeah. We're talking way too much about me, but that's okay.
I'm way more interested in you than I am in myself. So this is great. Plus I'm like that kind of tool is so helpful. I mean, I had certain difficulties as a child as well, and so finding the right tools and dealing. I mean, let's be honest, I'm still having those same difficulties. I just know how to manage them better now. Did you get into cognitive behavioral therapy at all with them?
I did. They had
they may still be
well, they had ABA therapists that came here like
awesome
3-4 times a week. Yeah, it was we got them diagnosed at 18 months. So we got help right away. They got to go to school at 3, like they're 6 now. So like, it's just like the growth is insane. Like when you actually notice the problem and get the help, it's amazing. Like, don't be like, if someone's questioning if their kid has it, just get them diagnosed and see. Like, getting help, it's not embarrassing. I think people, get embarrassed by those things, but it's like, it's a reality. Hey, your kids have, autism. They're on the spectrum. Like, get the help. That's how I believe it,
I say that's the same thing for anything. I mean, there's so many stupid stigmas in our society about so many things. And I mean, I talk a lot on all my channels about mental health and the importance of having the right toolkits and, just being verbal about the things that you struggle with. I mean, I'm as a business person, I often have to toe the line between business professionalism and also just being straight up with my clients, because this is like, I am the business, I am the person, I'm the face, I'm the marketing manager and the talent and the producer and everything else. And so it's like, just today I sent a professional email being like, sorry, I've been super out of it for the last 2 years while I've been dealing with some massive personal crises. But like, I've gotten some good systems going. I would like to pick this back up. just wanted to be forthcoming that that's what's been going on and nothing else. So
That's great
yeah,
though. As a person on the other end, I can imagine them receiving that very well, like just people being open and honest.
I've yet to have it be received poorly, frankly, and
Yeah.
I've sent a lot more than I've felt comfortable with over the last few years. But the same thing is that anytime you are vulnerable about the things, or even just expressing your needs, you might be embarrassed that you need things. I'm dyslexic, so I didn't learn how to read very well until I was 22 years old,
Yep.
and even just telling people that I need to have information presented to me in a certain way so that I can actually see it and ingest it,
Mm-hmm.
used to be cripplingly embarrassing. But now I'm just like, look, I'm 34 years old. These things are not going to probably change. So
Right.
if I want to exist in the world around me, I'm just going to be honest about it. And here's the thing, when you are honest about literally whatever it is, then you give other people the opportunity to say me too. And all of a sudden,
Mm-hmm.
bringing light into
Yeah.
darkness takes all of the shame away from it. So I want more people to talk about it. I want more people like you to be doing what you're doing and to create a business and a livelihood over something that's actually going to help people and change people's lives.
Yeah. That's what I'm so excited about. Like once I actually get these, like I can't wait to get out there and start having people test them and make sure that it works and my theories are good. Like I want to have it in real kids and real families' houses for a little bit and check it out. And then once it's up and going, I just can't wait to get the reviews, like that's what
Heck
I'm
yeah.
most excited about.
And also you've
Yeah.
lived it, so I mean,
Yes.
even like I'm
Yeah.
sure there's some level of insecurity there, but yeah, you have a better insight into those things than most people do, and
Well,
also you're
exactly. Yeah.
further along the journey than a lot of young parents are.
Mm-hmm.
What's
Yeah.
that behind you? What's those green? It almost looks like Ninja Turtles things or something.
Yeah, those are
Is that
some
what it is?
yeah, there's some Ninja Turtle tiki poles that I'm carving right now. Would you like to see one?
I would love to see
Yeah.
one, please.
I forget I'm hooked. Hold on.
Oh, I would have loved it much more if you forgot you were hooked.
So I had this curved wood that I got out of just a wood guy, a guy who like reclaims wood, he sells it to people, finds it, stuff. And I was like, I'm gonna make tiki poles. So yeah, I got Raph here, and then I've got Shredder going on here. And I'm just carving them for our deck. I have a bunch of burrs that Sabretooth sent me, and I started doing videos for them. And I'm like, well, what can I make? you know?
Dude, that's awesome. So, are you a massive Ninja Turtles fan?
Well, I did love it, but my husband's like the massive fan. Yeah.
How old is he?
He is a little younger than me. He's 38.
Okay,
Just turned 38.
so is
Yeah.
Adam. And here's the funny thing about all this. I
Mhm.
think like guys their age that were, just like in a certain
Certain age for
niche.
it. Yep.
So Adam was obsessed with Ninja Turtles. I didn't have a TV when I was a kid, so I have no I don't know anything about
Yeah.
it. But Adam was obsessed with it and he used to talk about it all the time. And so when we first got together, the first gift that I ever got for him was an April doll, because he had, or like a action figure or whatever that is,
Yeah.
because they didn't he was like, that was like the only one I could never find or whatever. And of course, like, because he was in love with her. Was your husband also in love with her?
I'm sure he was. He never talks about it. All I hear about is Jennifer
Oh,
Aniston.
oh well, that too.
Yeah. Right.
But it all came weirdly full circle, because now the real life person that played April is
Hmm.
our really good friend.
Really? That
And
is really funny.
the first time I met her, I told her, although that I've like, in retrospect, Adam was probably really embarrassed that I
I'm
did.
sure.
But I told her that, like, oh my gosh, I was like, Adam was in love with you. And she's like, oh, I know, every guy his age it was. And I'm like, oh, okay. But then we spent Christmas Eve with her this year, and she gave him an autographed April doll. And I was like, it really is full circle.
That's amazing.
Anyway,
Yeah. I know that is. That's
yeah.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband's office is next to mine, and it's literally I just keep making Ninja Turtle art for him. And it's funny, like I laugh because it works well on my page. Like that's what gets me the actual follows. And I'm like,
Heck yeah.
he's like, see, I told you, you just gotta make art for me all day. I'm like, you don't pay though, pal.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
build your audience there, because nerds, like
They
most of the
got
guys
money.
like them. got good jobs because
Yep.
they learned how to use computers and to play video games and all that
Mhm.
stuff. And now they have the money to spend and they want art like that in their homes. So go for it.
I
Go
am leaning
full
into
hog
it.
for that.
I
Heck yeah.
What you see right there that is not painted is an order. Somebody ordered all 6 of them that I made, and I was like, I was like, that just made my month. Like, I wasn't expecting to
Yes.
have that income, and I was just like, we actually booked a trip to go visit friends with the money. I'm like, I'm spending it. I'm like, I'm
Heck
celebrating. I'm like,
yeah.
so
Heck
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Me and my husband haven't
That's
traveled yet, like by ourselves and where I'm not working, because usually it's
yeah.
for business. So
Yeah.
I'm like, we're going on vacation to California to just hang out with makers and just relax. I'm like, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. But yeah, Ninja Turtles. I like it.
Well, that's gonna be a hoot. What when you go to California, are you like? Oh, well, actually, is your husband into the maker? It was kind of surprising to hear that he goes with you to maker events.
He goes with me so that he can be there if I need something. He's there to get away from the
Aha,
kids.
aha! I hear you.
And to,
So,
it's nice to travel with him too. So like, you
of
have
course, of
somebody to
course, of
carry your
course.
bag. No, it's like,
Exactly. Someone to drive the car to and from the
yeah.
airport so you can nap on the
Oh,
way.
see, I like driving. I'm like, you
Oh.
sit, you nap.
Oh, perfect. Well, if we ever go on
Yeah,
vacation, then you can drive.
I'll
I will
drive you
nap.
around. It's fine.
Which makers are you gonna go see?
Made by Mary Lou. I don't know if you've met her before.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So she's my primary visit. Her and Captain's Planks are who I'm going to be probably
Awesome.
hanging out primarily with. I've got Mary Lou as a chauffeur, so I don't have to worry about that. She volunteered. I was like, okay, save me some money. Thank you.
Oh, even better. Also, she's seriously the most kind and thoughtful person ever. So, I mean, that doesn't surprise me in the least.
So I want to talk to you about just like how you try to preserve the older skills, like using hand tools and stuff like that. Like, where'd that passion come from?
I am obsessed with living history museums.
Ah,
And
okay.
so when I was a kid, I struggled a lot in school. And one of the things that my mom would let me do when I was skipping school was take me to this really, really crappy living history museum that was so janky in retrospect. But I mean, obviously, I knew no different. So it was
hmm
heaven for me. And I got, to use like butter churns and all kinds of, and like, the hand drills that you like, the
hmm
egg beater drills, and then all kinds of other tools that were like basically operate like an egg beater. And I loved that. I mean, they had little things like you could, practice roping and rope the milk
We have
cans
one
and
near
all
us,
kinds of
like
other
an
things.
hour away, called Sturbridge Village. Yeah.
You live by Starbridge Village, my
Yeah.
favorite place in the whole
I'm
world.
1 hour away. Yeah.
Well,
So now we know where we're
listen,
hanging out.
I come and visit. Well, pre-pandemic, it was an annual
That's where we go on
mecca.
field trips. Like every kid always
Listen,
goes there. Yeah.
the kids that get to go on those field trips have no understanding of
They don't.
how incredibly lucky they are. Also, like, a lot of people don't really think that's that cool, but I think that it is that cool. And so my whole thing with the hand tools and everything else was, I had a really hard time learning things in a traditional way, but for some
hmm
reason using my hands always really made sense to me. And so the things that I learned, and being able to look at the tools that they used every day and then actually use them and see how they worked and then put them to use, kind of just stuck with me for the rest of my life. And so as the funny thing is, I thought I'm making got put fully and totally on hold for me because when I was 17, I went to school in China, and then I learned how to speak Chinese, and I decided that I'm going to work in corporate and I'm going to make a bunch of money and I'm going to live a totally different life than I was
Wow.
raised in, and I'm going to be able to
Crazy.
take care of my parents and all these other things. And then I came back to visit my best friend for 6 months in America, and he somehow trapped me uh, in America, and then the rest is history. So when I moved back to the States, I, for the first time, had a garage and and a yard, and I was
Yep.
like, oh, what? Huh. So I guess I'm going to start acquiring some tools, and I, got a couple hand planes that my grandfather had had left to me, and I started, reading around. There's a book called The Anarchist Tool Chest by Christopher Schwarz, which was absolutely life-changing.
Awesome.
He basically made a life out of hand tool woodworking, and I was like, well, I would like to do that too. And so I set out on that path. I started, trying to figure out any and every way that because I mean, we were broke at that time. 90% of the things we ate were coming from the food bank. So, I didn't have expendable money in any sense of the word, but I decided, hey, I'm going to figure out how to use whatever skills I can, and kind of do this like leapfrog thing to get some tools. I started looking around in Washington. We lived in like a fairly wealthy area, ironically, and so the things that people would throw away, like put out in the curb for trash day, I started doing basically dumpster diving. There was no dumpster involved, but I would just like,
I'm sure you're like us.
Past.
We were always like, you go to the rich neighborhoods to go to the tag sales because they're going to be getting rid of the good stuff for dirt cheap because it's invaluable to them.
Yeah. So I was just, meandering around their trash piles, and I started collecting things, and I would fix things, and then, or improve them in some way, or, put two things together and then sell them on Craigslist. And then, for a little bit of a profit. And then I would buy the next thing and the next thing. I think I'd had like, I've forgotten the statistic, but I think I had like 30 table saws before I had my own table saw, because I just kept buying them and taking them apart and fixing them and making them better and then selling them. And then eventually I had a usable tool set in my own garage, and I was just like, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I started, writing some articles for magazines so that I could, make enough money to buy enough wood for the next project. I started being very thrifty in other ways. Just
what made you think of that, like to write articles for magazines? Just because you were a reader? Like, is that maybe what brought it on?
When I had first moved back to the States, I figured out how to read and comprehend when I was 22. And that changed the trajectory of the rest of my life, because all of a sudden books offered me something that I hadn't had before. And because I couldn't, afford to take classes or, take time off of work to go, do long workshops or anything like that, I was like, well, but these books are free. And that was before YouTube was a huge deal. So we lived right down the street from the library, and I was just voraciously reading any and every book. I would actually, my librarian got super pissed at me because I would check out 30 books at a time, which was the limit. And just be like, she was like, why do you have to take all 30 of them all at once? She's like, I have to pull these off of the shelf. And I was like, I'm sorry, would you like me to pull them off? Oh, because I always like reserve them online, because I actually can't, numbers, the Dewey Decimal System, no chance.
Oh yeah, to try to figure out where everything is.
This brain. So I would reserve them all by title online. Anyway, she was like, I had to
That's
pull
hilarious though.
For you again today. And then I read all of them. I mean, I read 300 and some books that first year about making stuff. And I was learning really quickly, but also I was putting that into practice. And so, I'd go to work, and then I'd come home and, like be in the garage until I fell asleep. And then I would wake up really early and read some more, and then go practice what I'd read about.
Yeah.
And so with that, I realized very quickly that I had, a couple things that most woodworkers that were like already writing for the magazines didn't have, which is a sense of humor, the ability to take a good photograph. My dad was a photographer, and he kind of,
I was going to ask you about
I learned some of that. And but ironically, as a kid, I hated photography. I hated his photography, because he would be like, oh, do you guys want to go hiking? And then we'd spend 8 hours like standing around while he was taking a picture of one stupid flower. And I was like, come on, let's go. But
I get that. Yeah.
But we love doing that stuff together now, which is very funny. But of course, you got to grow up at some point. But anyway, so I had the ability to be funny and to take a quality picture, and then also to just write interestingly. And I think I had a lot of criticism early on from, people that were like, you don't know enough about this to be teaching other people. And I was like, I'm not claiming to be an expert ever. I'm literally saying I'm a beginner, but maybe I'm so close to the beginning part of the journey. Maybe I have a different perspective than someone who's already forgotten what it was like to not know what a sawtooth was. And then I will lovingly explain it to the person that's 1 or 2 steps behind me on the journey. And that actually worked out really well for me, because not only did it like force me to continue learning and give me a little bit of extra income, it also gave me a lot of, early recognition in the woodworking community, which then also helped to kind of jumpstart other opportunities that I was happy to take when they were offered. So, I got to go to a woodworking conference, and the magazine paid for it. So then, then I got to meet all of these, other woodworkers, and I got to network and to be like, oh, would you like me to write an article about you? That would be a great opportunity for me to be able to come to your shop and learn from you and write an article about you, get you some publicity that you very much need and can use. And then it works out, for everyone. And that's kind of just what I did for the first like 7 years that I was doing all this stuff.
That's amazing. So many people you must have met.
I mean, it was unreal.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, that first conference, I told you I read The Anarchist Tool Chest by Chris Schwarz, who's blessedly now a friend of mine. But the first woodworking conference, I wrote him a letter like thanking him for changing my life. And I was so nervous to meet, like I knew that I wasn't going to be able to talk to him, because, and then the funny thing is, it's like a niche thing. Like he was such a celebrity to me that I
get it. Yeah.
Up.
No, oh no.
I threw up right before I went and talked to him. And then I gave him the letter and I didn't say a single word, and I like ran off. And
I love that.
he actually was just here a couple weeks ago, and he helped me glue up those chairs that are in the background there. And I was telling him about that, and he was making fun of me. But that was, that really helped kind of jumpstart things. Then weirdly, because I had the credibility of writing for magazines and being published and being seen places, I was offered a job running a woodworking school, which was incredible. And the only reason I took it was because what they really needed help with was a marketing problem, and marketing is the one thing that I like know. And so I was like,
right?
I was like, I'm not a good woodworker, but I can do marketing, and I can help you fix this program. So while I was there, I had never even taken a woodworking class before my first day of work running this woodworking school.
That's crazy.
And like everyone else in the room is, they're like, oh, I have a master's degree in this, and I've been shown in this museum. And they're like, oh, where's your work? And I was like, in my mom's living room. Obviously, that's the only person who is not embarrassed about it at this point. But through that, I built the program that I wished I could have taken, that I wish that I could afford to take. And then incidentally, I got paid to take it. And that was really awesome. And the program was thriving, within the next couple of years. And so when I was ready then to move on and do my own thing, I was able to pass it off to my friend, who then did an incredible job, building the systems and actually running it and making it work in a way that, I couldn't, because I'm good at ideas and starting big things and getting the thing and, convincing people to join on the journey. But then I'm not a good manager. So that was...
It gets monotonous doing the same thing all day, every day. It does.
Yeah. And I mean, some people can do that, and God bless them, because I need those people also to help me get the stuff that I need to get done, because I can't.
Yeah.
I follow the interest and the excitement and the novelty everywhere that it'll take me, because that's the only path that I've ever been able to go. I mean, I'm self-employed because I have never been able to keep a job very long, so
it's crazy. I had mine for 16 years before this. It was a long
this journey. Is your planner, and this is the thing.
I love it.
We're good.
I love being I would say that I love being like different than other people, because you get to see the other side of, like, what if I was more impulsive, or what if I,
Trust me, you don't want that for yourself or for your family or for your bottom line or for your business or anything else.
I let my anxiety do the talking of how big of a move I make, by planning it calms the anxiety down.
I know a thing or two about anxiety.
Yeah. That's how I control it.
That's good.
A little.
Maybe I should be better. Well, I mean, I will say that the systems that I've built, like my planning systems and things that force me to be more of that are the way that I get control of that stuff too. Because
Yeah.
my greatest source of anxiety is letting people down, because my most important thing in life is building relationships with people. So if I let them down, that really negatively affects that. So that shame is great. It's a great motivator.
And your website, I really loved how you have it all divided out. Like, you have your 3 categories. You kind of show like, these are my main focuses. I may go away from those, but like, these are my 3 main focuses. Like, it's just really well run. I like how you have a bit of merch to bring some money in. You have like your occasional spoons that you might carve. You have really diversified what you're doing. And like you said, keeping those stuff spread out. One thing fails, you got to pivot to the next thing. I like it.
Totally. The one thing you didn't see that needs to be there a lot more is a lot more teaching. So I like, for the longest time, doing public speaking engagements and traveling and teaching was a huge part of my income. But then during 2020, a lot of that had to pivot to online stuff. And it turns out that I think a lot of that translates really well online. So I've got, I have a few courses that I've done for other people. But the path that I'm heading towards is doing a lot more courses, because I want to continue my novelty seeking as I'm creating them, but also I want to provide other people with high quality education that will be accessible. Because the one amazing thing about, like, even if I had the opportunity when I was first getting started, I was given a full ride scholarship to this incredible woodworking school, but I couldn't afford to go, even though it was going to be free, because I mean, I couldn't even afford the gas to get there. I couldn't afford the housing. I couldn't afford to take that much time off of work and just not have income for that time. So it's like, that to me was a life, that would have changed the entire trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it. So what I want to do with this stuff is give people like me the opportunity to learn without any barriers. So we have some scholarship programs that I've been working on putting together that will help to like purchase tools and actual physical supplies. But then with digital courses, I mean, it doesn't cost me anything to give someone a link, and so for that, once it's already made, I'll be able to offer those things. I have a no questions asked policy. Just if you can't afford it and you're actually going to use it, you let me know. You don't have to tell me why or anything else, and then it's yours.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
But and all of that is under the name the School of All Trades. I'm building a physical school here too, which I totally forgot to mention at the beginning of this. But so I'm building a physical school here, and we'll film a lot of that content here. We'll have guest instructors who have all kinds of different skills and can do different kinds of projects. And then the online portion will be there. But if you want to find it now, you can just, I mean, it's slow to get started, because as I'm sure you saw while you were doing that stocking, there's a lot of other things going on, and it's hard to push 10 rocks up a hill at the same time.
Well, you very smartly made it your link in your Instagram. So kudos to you, because that's where it brings you. It doesn't bring you anywhere else, but it brings you there. So I did do a good stocking. See, look at that.
I'm impressed.
But no, it's super smart. So it's going to be like an online subscription where you just sign up and you get the classes. Insider secret of Workbench Con, there is going to be an online subscription class that's going to be happening before Workbench Con. So once you get your ticket, you'll be able to get that like before you even go to Workbench Con. We're going to have it digitally. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Like, I think that's going to be a really important class, because I feel like a lot of makers are starting to move towards that, because you do need a steady income and you do want to give back to the community, but also you have to pay bills. You have a family, you have things that you need to afford. So it's like a really great way. And like you said, like in the cases where you just want to help somebody out, you can just have that opportunity to just send them a link, and which is an amazing thing to be able to do. So yes. So definitely make sure you keep an eye out for that class, because I think that'll be nice.
I am excited.
Very, very relevant to what you're doing right now.
Very relevant indeed. And also, as you said, relevant to what a lot of people should do. I mean, I have like I think that everyone should, like, I think that everyone has something that they should teach a lot of us, I think, though, end up at least starting teaching the wrong thing. And so, or something that, like, what I'm getting at is that I think that every single person has some like super, super special skill. And a lot of people, especially I've seen in the maker community, I'm sure it happens everywhere, but a lot of people within the maker community, want to do that thing. They want to quit their job to follow this passion, but are missing a key element. And that key element is basically, how am I going to actually make this financially work and also do the work of the business and everything else. And for me, at least, it wasn't until I had activated, I mean, I said that I quit my job to be a furniture maker, and now I've been self-employed and I barely make furniture anymore. It was activating that, or realizing that one thing that I had that was really valuable that very few other people had, and then really, really zeroing in on that. So that lets me do the things that I'm able to do now. I get to be self-employed because I've activated this one thing that's different about me as a farmer / hand tool woodworker / whatever else that I want to be, but actually gets the bills paid. And for a lot of people, I love that people are leaning into that online course thing a lot more. But even with the workbench thing and makers in general, there's probably opportunity to teach a lot more than just making.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's been the thing for me. I mean, the funniest thing that I realized my most valuable skill is actually like teaching people how to prioritize their time and to like plan and schedule things out and like do the work that we've been talking about that I'm bad at, because I had to figure out a way to do that. And it turns out a ton of people were following me because they saw me doing that and they wanted to know how, but I had no idea. I thought they were just following me because they were wanting to watch a squirrel chase a bunch of nuts all around the yard all day. But actually, as it turns out, they were like, wait, how is that happening? How are you doing all those different things? And I was like, oh, well, just the only way that makes sense and the only way that works. But apparently that's something that not everyone's good at. So let's talk about that.
That's great that your community gave you that feedback, though. Like, you have a very active community. I was looking just like at your live, the amount of comments that were just flying through there. I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's just an amazing feeling to be able, like, to be overwhelmed by all the feedback you're getting, it's like,
oh yeah.
Okay, what'd they say there?
And heck yeah. Well, and where that comes from is by being real. People want to connect with other real human beings. And I was super, super insecure most of my life. I mean, in some situations I still am, but like, because I couldn't really read, and I never really thought that I was very smart because math was impossible for me. I thought, like, these easy things are so easy for other people. I mean, these impossible things for me are so easy for other people. So I kind of thought I was stupid for most of my life. And in that, I felt like an imposter anytime I wrote a magazine article or anytime I got up in front of a class to teach or anything like that. And then, of course, jerks on the internet made it worse by affirming that insecurity. But it was really just like when I started to let down my guard, when I realized that I didn't have to be an expert for people to like me. And I just like was able to stop being defensive and, stop, putting up this constant wall and always having to be perfect and polished.
I put a show on. Yeah.
When it wasn't a TV show anymore, and when I wasn't reading a script anymore, people really started to get engaged. And I also started to get a whole lot more enjoyment and satisfaction from being part of it all.
Yeah, you're having real conversations with people about topics that you care about. Yeah. That's what I've noticed about you over the years, is just how vulnerable you are. Like, you're really like an open book, and it is really refreshing because you don't see that very often. I do that in stories. I don't do that on my page. And like, I've been noticing that about myself. I'm like, but why don't I? I'm like, do I feel like I'm going to burden people for like, listen to my real feelings, like, It's interesting, but I love that you do it. And it definitely inspires me to try to be a little bit more open and not just be the
Absolutely.
you know?
I mean, and I think the real ticket too for like no matter what we're doing online is it's not just about sharing what we're going through, which can often fall really flat. It's like, it's a few makers have really, really made it big by making like just look at me doing what I'm doing. Watch me do this thing.
Yep.
But I've seen so many people then try to emulate that same thing and it just falls flat and falls flat and falls flat. And oftentimes, I think even with those makers that have made it big by just doing the watch me do it, there's other things at play. Like maybe they're super funny or like all these other things. And so it's not just watch me do it, because I tell you what,
special factor.
There is no value whatsoever in just saying, hey, watch me do this thing. Or even, hey, I feel like absolute human garbage, blah, 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 blah. It's really trying to find the commonalities with other human beings. So when I talk about, depression, I'm not just like, oh, woe is me, I'm so depressed. I really try to think about like who exactly am I trying to talk to here? What is going to make this valuable and interesting to them? How can I add value instead of just being like, hey, look at me and whatever it is that I'm doing or whatever it is that I'm talking about. So, I mean, even you have this incredible perspective to offer other parents that are struggling with similar things.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, you can absolutely, like, you don't have to, obviously, if you want to keep that part of your life private, but you could absolutely speak to the pain and the frustration and like the loneliness and the isolation of not being able to leave your house for 3 years, of the embarrassment or whatever else that like accompanied being out in public with, like just like screaming and crying and throwing things and all those things. Like
keep listening.
You can
exactly.
speak to that.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot. You're hitting all of the things.
Yeah. And you have this valuable perspective and the opportunity to offer someone else who's in that situation a Me Too moment, like hey, like I've been there too and it really sucks. By the way, this is one thing that really helped. And I mean that even, I mean, from I hate even like going from point A to this point A to point B, because this sounds super douchey, but I mean, that's literally what all marketing is. Like good marketing is connecting with people. Money is a problem solving tool. So as business owners, we have the opportunity to solve other people's problems. And if we can actually clearly communicate what the problem is, to invite the people that have that same problem in, and then we can clearly communicate how we're going to solve that problem. Now, all of a sudden, that solution, people are going to use their money to get that solution. And we have a viable business, and we can feel good about charging the money that we need to charge to be able to get that, like make that business happen, because we see that people's problems are actually being solved. And then, and then there we go. We've got a successful business, and that's all that we're doing with marketing is we're telling the story of the problem, and we're offering a solution. And so we've got to use the same language that the people that are having that problem would expect to see and hear. And we've got to, be open and raw and vulnerable and all those things, so that they know that this isn't just some stupid sales tactic. Like you're not filling in like a little, formulaic thing that's just like,
I like it. Thank you for the free business coaching today. I just want to say, because like, it's everything I need to hear about. Like, it's all the stuff I want to do for navigating life charts that I haven't had the time to do it, because I have myself quite stretched. So that goes on the burner.
Relate.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That always ends up on a burner, but I'm like, it's gonna happen. And when it does, though, like that just gives me so much insight of how to go about the marketing. And kind of like with how you read all those books, I became a podcast junkie. So while I was doing my very boring marketing job that I was in before, I was, listening to Made for Profit. I was listening to Side Hustle School. Like there's a bunch of different things that I was just like absorbing business knowledge. I think like a 2-year binge of just that kind of information coming in all day. So I think it's great that, the people who really want to make those moves will put the work in on getting the education they need to grow and to move. Have you ever tried power carving yet with the
Yeah. actually the power carving is kind of great. So I really like to encourage people to start with hand tools, literally just so that they can figure out what like what's about to happen. Because
Yeah.
the funny thing is, when you're using hand tools, everything happens a lot more slowly. So especially if you're carving spoons, spoons are, cool, they're useful, they're things that you can use in your kitchen. You can make something and then get invited into 1,000 different kitchens, then be part of every one of their nightly dinners or whatever else.
Yeah, no, it's
But
true.
the cool thing about spoons is I always like to use them as a vehicle to teach the other things that people probably wouldn't be as interested in learning at the beginning, which is, you've got to figure out how grain direction works. So if you're carving a spoon, you're going to figure out, like if you're power carving a spoon, you're going to figure out really quickly that when that grain changes direction, it's going to grab and it's going to flick, and then you're going to ruin your spoon. And that happens a whole lot more slowly when you're doing it by hand. And so you can learn some of that, like some of those tools and techniques kind of at first. So, but the funny thing is, because I teach so many spoon carving classes, I end up having many in progress spoons that dry out. And when you're hand carving, you want to start with wet wood. And when you're and once it dries, it's really hard to work. It's just basically frustrating. It's like not impossible. It's just like frustrating to work by.
Right. You're
and
not
it takes more physical
scooping
effort
out what you need to. Yeah, exactly. It's much more effort to get that.
So with all of my like 50 to 100 dried out half done spoons that I did, were examples while I was teaching, that's like the perfect opportunity to use the power carver to finish it up, because once that wood's hardened, it's just like, nope, well, no problem. And then it's done.
Yeah. I think she sent you Eric Curtis's kit.
Yes. And Eric is the one who got me started. Well, not got me started with spoon carving, just to be clear, but got me started because I had, it's one of those things. It's like, as a maker, I'm sure you know this, like whenever you don't even know that a tool exists, and then you see it, and then now that you know that it exists, you have to have it.
Exactly.
And so I didn't even know that power carving with, to that on that scale was a thing. And I was like, well, that's got to happen now. Same thing with I've started using angle grinders for metal work. And then I was like, wait a minute, these could be used for seat carving with chair making. And that would speed things up a whole lot.
In October, I'm going to be teaching how to power carve spoons and stuff. And I've never carved any before. So I was laughing because I went to my husband. I'm like, I got to show Anne my spoons and stuff.
Whoa.
I go, so this is my first, I went a little too narrow on this one. But just playing around just to do that was the first one I did. And then I just did the scoop playing around with it the other day. But it's amazing what you could do with those burrs, never having done a spoon. And that's what I'm going to be teaching beginning spoons. So I'm a beginner teaching beginners. Let's go.
Listen, once you're a few steps down the road, you can you can help a few of the people that are, give them a hand up to where you're at.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So I'm bringing a nice jigsaw. We're going to have some fun in the field. It's going to be a good time.
Excellent.
Yeah. I love it. I love that Makers Camp is going to be so fun. And that Sabertooth was like, let's do it.
Why not? So that's going to be at Makers Camp. I'm still trying to figure out if I can come to that. I'm in this funny place right now of I need to get out more, obviously, but also, it's so stressful and so difficult to leave the farm. And also for 7 years, I was traveling at least 2, but oftentimes 3 or more times a month for work. And I was gone, so much of the time that I actually was still doing it up till right before we moved here. And that was the intention, is to just keep going with that stuff. But then kind of mercifully for my own just life whateverness, the pandemic happened and I wasn't able to leave my house for 3 years. And then all of a sudden it was maybe I could find a balance moving forward, instead of just this insanity all the time. But now I'm but everything sounds fun and I miss all my friends and I want to go see everyone.
COVID was the perfect break, as bad as it is, obviously just the time of having to be home, having to be stuck home has given so many more people opportunities. The amount of makers that came out of it, besides this podcast, I have my own where I interview makers, and just the amount of people I've talked to that are like, oh yeah, I started when I got stuck at home because of COVID, and like I had something to do, or we wanted to build something here, like it's amazing what people have stemmed on from just having to be home, having to be with their family. Maybe they needed some time away from the family and they found their garage. It's pretty interesting. I'm totally a realist, Anne.
Listen, hey, why do you think I have all this set up in my barn and not my home?
Need to step out for a moment. Why do you think I learned how to use a router in my garage, not in the room where my twin babies were crying all day? Mama needed to step away for a minute. Yeah.
I mean, there's an argument for hand tools too, by the way. I have a lot of friends who don't have they don't have enough soundproofness to do stuff, but then they're able to build stuff, right in the next room next to their babies. I didn't have a shop for a long time, so I worked in my laundry room, and there was obviously I couldn't use any power tools in there because it would make the whole house awful. But there was even a certain magic to that, even because it was just oh, well, now I have to figure out a lot of times I would be in the middle of a project and it was so small that I had to climb over the workbench to get to the other side of the project to cut on the other side. But you can silently do almost anything, which is kind of cool too.
No, that's pretty amazing. And the sound effects are really nice. Come on, the scraping sounds.
ASMR. It's so great. Yeah. The little shoop, shoop, shoop. And also from a photography standpoint. And I will be honest, that was actually probably the two things that were most pleasing to me about it, is that in any light, it's just oh my gosh, the light's hitting that so beautifully. It looks like 1822 right now. Oh, yes, more. And here we are.
Well, I know you don't have powder on your floor, you have shavings. So it's a different
That's
world.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. We're all covered in dust. Well, if you do come up to Sturbridge Village, come let me know, because I don't know if you know Crafts with Dre or Man-Made MA, but they both know the blacksmith there, and they go there all the time too. So it would be really fun.
Alan?
Yeah, yes.
Trust me, listen, these are my people.
I was gonna say they go and they visit him, and they'll chill for the day and stuff. So yeah. Plus they have great food in Sturbridge.
Yes, there's pretty much every good thing. I just usually pop 7 bennies and then have a lobster roll. I'm allergic to shellfish, but it's just worth it. And I'm working on curing myself by exposure therapy, because if it works for mental illness, I've decided it also works for food. So we're on our path.
So you've got the EpiPen, there. I hope, but just in case. Yeah. Be prepared.
Yeah, you gotta have it.
All right,
little
then we
burst
have a plan.
of energy for the afternoon.
Awesome.
Anyway, on that note,
let's wrap this up.
Let's not talk about
Anne dying
further
at a seafood restaurant.
Especially because I still am working on my lobster sponsorships. I'm really I would love to find some, next day delivery air lobster service.
Is that your favorite food right there? Are you a big seafood person? Yeah.
Well, no, not seafood, just lobster.
Just lobster.
Also, crabs are okay.
Should I ask, is butter your favorite food? Or
yeah, butter's my favorite food. It's a vehicle for the butter. Okay. So also my favorite vegetable, should you ask, which you didn't, but I will tell you, is no. Artichokes, because then you get to dip and scoop the butter with each thing. A corn, you just have one small slathering. And then
you can re-slather and then just, that is true. That is problematic.
Yes. But also then you can cut it off and everything. But here's the thing. Artichokes are better, and they taste more like lobster anyway. So there's that.
Artichokes just remind me of my grandmother. She's an old Italian immigrant. That's the
thing.
See,
there's my Italian.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Also with the hand waving, in case you didn't catch that earlier.
Well, Anne, have a great night, and I'm sure I'll talk to you more. Have a good one. I
look forward to it. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Cheers.
All right. I hope you enjoyed the show. That was an amazing experience for me, and I hope it resonated with you as well. So a couple of things that we talked about. We're going to be at Makers Camp, Sadie, May, and myself. Sadie is from the Awesome Orange. We're going to be there. We're going to be doing all kinds of fun demos. We're going to have some quick carve competitions, and come say hi, because we've got some goodies that we want to hand out. So if you're interested in power carving, Come stop by. You will not regret it. We have over 120 burrs to play with, and it's going to be a really good time. We've got some great wood from Miller's Rustic Sawmill and Forest to Home. So come check us out. I think you're going to have a really good time, and we can't wait to see you. So until the next episode, keep on carving.